Welcome to my channel BBC Rare Coins. From 1909 to 1958, the humble wheat penny circulated in millions of pockets across the US. But did you know some of them are worth thousands today? Top 1. You're looking at one of the most surprising and valuable coins in American history. It's not gold. It's not silver. It's not covered in jewels or locked in a museum vault. It's a simple piece of copper, barely larger than your fingertip, yet one version of it sold for an unbelievable $77,000. This is the story of the 1941 wheat penny and how a single coin, made during a time of war, became one of the most valuable pennies ever sold. At first glance, the 1941 wheat penny doesn't seem special. In fact, it's one of the most commonly produced coins of its era. Over 887 million were minted in Philadelphia alone. And when you add in the coins from the Denver and San Francisco mints, the number crosses 1 billion. So why in the world would one of these pennies be worth more than a luxury car? To understand that, we need to go back, way back, to 1941. America was standing on the edge of a world war. Factories were ramping up. Copper was becoming more and more essential for wartime materials, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to keep coins in circulation while preparing for possible metal shortages. This created a high-speed, high-pressure production environment. Mistakes happened. And while most 1941 pennies were struck normally and have little value today, a few rare ones slipped through with extraordinary qualities. The most valuable 1941 wheat penny ever sold wasn't just rare, it was perfect. We're talking about a coin that looks like it was struck yesterday. A flawless, mint-state specimen with razor-sharp details, no scratches, no blemishes, no discoloration. The portrait of Lincoln was crisp, the lettering clean, and the wheat stalks on the reverse were detailed down to the finest lines. And here's where things get interesting. This coin wasn't just well-preserved. It had something more. Experts believe it may have been an early strike from a freshly prepared die, possibly even a first strike. That means the coin was produced using dies that hadn't yet worn down, resulting in sharper details and better definition. On top of that, it was likely stored immediately after minting, never entering circulation, and kept in ideal conditions for decades. It was later certified by a professional grading company, which assigned it an extremely high grade, something like MS-68 or higher. That alone makes it one of the top 1941 pennies in existence. But condition isn't everything. Collectors are driven by rarity, condition, history, and demand, and when all of those align, prices skyrocket. In an intense coin auction, collectors from across the globe competed for this penny. The bidding escalated quickly as dealers, investors, and collectors recognized just how rare this coin was. By the time the final bid was called, the price had soared to an incredible $77,000. Think about that. A single penny, 1 cent, worth more than most people's annual salary. Not because of what it's made of, but because of what it represents, a rare, preserved moment in time. A perfect survivor of one of the most dramatic eras in American history. And the crazy part? It's not alone. There are more out there. Maybe not in perfect condition, maybe not worth tens of thousands, but valuable nonetheless. Tens of millions of people have old jars of coins, boxes in the attic, inherited collections sitting in closets. And among all those old wheat pennies, a few hidden gems still remain. A 1941 wheat penny in uncirculated condition could be worth $5, $50, even a few $100s. And if you're lucky, really lucky, you might find one of the near-perfect survivors, the kind that turns into an auction star. So what should you look for? Start with the basics. Check the date, 1941. Check the mint mark. Pennies from Denver, D, or San Francisco, S, can sometimes carry small premiums. Check the condition. Is the detail still strong? Can you see all the lines in Lincoln's coat and the wheat stalks? And most importantly, look for coins that appear untouched. No scratches, no fingerprints, no discoloration. If you think you've found something special, get it checked out. Reputable coin dealers or professional grading services can tell you if you're sitting on something valuable. Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge is everything and history often hides in plain sight. The 1941 wheat penny, a coin made for everyday use, a symbol of wartime America. And for one lucky collector, a 1 cent piece that turned into $77,000. Check your pockets. Look through your old change, because you never know when history might be hiding right in the palm of your hand. Top 2. You're looking at what might be the most unexpected treasure in American coin collecting, the 1945 wheat penny. Ordinary to most, forgotten by many, yet one rare version of this small copper coin sold for an astonishing $74,000. That's right, a single 1-cent piece from 1945 brought in the kind of money most people only dream of. How? Why? Let's break down the story behind this legendary coin and what makes it so valuable. 1945 was a year of great change. The Second World War was coming to an end. American factories were still pushing hard to support the war effort, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins at full speed to support a growing, recovering economy. The Lincoln Wheat Penny was everywhere, used daily by millions of Americans, tossed into jars, purses, pockets, and drawers. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 1 billion of these pennies that year. To most, the 1945 penny was just another coin in circulation. But in the world of collectors, there's always more to the story. The 1945 penny that made headlines wasn't just old, it was rare in a way that few coins ever are. It was nearly perfect, not just uncirculated, but in a state so flawless that experts couldn't believe what they were seeing. A coin that had somehow survived for over 75 years without a single scratch, fingerprint, or blemish. The color was bright, the strike was strong, the details were sharp. The grain in Lincoln's coat, the definition in his face, the clean edges of every letter and number. This penny looked like it was struck yesterday. But that alone doesn't make a penny worth $74,000. The true value came from a combination of extreme rarity, pristine condition, and something that can't be manufactured: demand. Collectors knew how many 1945 pennies existed, but almost none in this condition. And then there were rumors. Some experts believe this coin may have been an early die strike, maybe even a specimen or presentation piece. While most 1945 pennies were churned out quickly under wartime pressure, this one seemed like it was handled with care, possibly pulled aside right after minting and preserved with intention. The coin was sent in for grading and came back with an incredibly high mint state rating, possibly MS68 or higher. In a world where a single point on the grading scale can change a coin's value by thousands, this penny was in the uppermost tier of survivors. When it went to auction, it didn't just attract attention, it started a bidding war. Collectors, investors, and dealers all wanted a shot at owning a piece of American numismatic history. The price kept rising. 10,000, 20, 30, 40, until finally $74,000 for 1 penny. And here's the best part. This wasn't some mythical one-off coin hidden away in a museum. It was once in someone's possession, likely tucked away in a box, forgotten for decades. And while this particular penny made headlines, it serves as a reminder that rare treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. If you've got old change at home, especially wheat pennies, take a closer look. Most 1945 pennies might be worth just a few cents, maybe a few dollars if in good shape. But condition is everything. If you find one that looks like it was just minted, with sharp details and clean surfaces, you could be holding something far more valuable than you think. Look for clean surfaces. No wear. Strong strike. Full detail on Lincoln's hair and beard. Sharp rims. A clear mint mark of present. And absolutely no damage. If your penny checks those boxes, it might be time to get it professionally graded. The 1945 wheat penny isn't rare because of how many were made. It's rare because of how few survived in such incredible condition. Most were spent, worn down, lost. But a small handful were saved, protected, and kept alive through the decades. And now, they're worth thousands. So the next time you come across a wheat penny, especially from 1945, don't overlook it. That tiny copper coin in your hand might be a time capsule, a relic from the final days of World War II, and maybe even your next big payday. 1 cent, $74,000. That's the magic of coin collecting, and the legend of the 1945 wheat penny lives on. Top 3. The 1951 wheat penny. A coin so common, so ordinary on the surface, that millions of people have likely tossed one aside without a second thought. But hidden among the countless pennies struck that year, there exists one that shattered expectations. One that stunned collectors and dealers alike when it sold for an astonishing $71,000. A 1-cent coin, worth more than luxury cars, more than college tuition, more than what many people earn in a year. This is the story of the rarest, most valuable 1951 wheat penny ever discovered. 1951 was a post-war year. America was booming. Factories were humming. The economy was growing, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins at a record pace to keep up with demand. Over 284 million Lincoln wheat pennies were minted in Philadelphia that year, with millions more from Denver and San Francisco. They were used for newspapers, soda machines, comic books, and everything in between. The 1951 penny was one of the most circulated coins of its time. But as any serious collector knows, value doesn't come from how many were made, it comes from how many survived in extraordinary condition. The 1951 penny that turned into a $71,000 treasure was no ordinary coin. This was a mint state masterpiece, a nearly perfect survivor of time. For over 7 decades, it avoided wear, damage, and even the slightest fingerprint. It remained untouched, sharp, brilliant. The lines on Lincoln's face were crisp. The wheat stalks on the reverse glowed with detail. Even under magnification, this coin looked flawless. This coin was likely never circulated. Some believe it may have been saved immediately after minting, possibly even pulled straight from a freshly sealed bag of coins. It was later submitted to a professional grading service and earned a nearly impossible grade, MS-68 or higher. In the world of coin collecting, that kind of condition is incredibly rare. The vast majority of 1951 pennies were used, abused, and lost. Even uncirculated examples usually show small blemishes, soft strikes, or oxidation. But this one? This was a time capsule. Collectors recognized its rarity instantly. It wasn't just the date, it was the condition, the brilliance, the fact that it was one of the best preserved 1951 wheat pennies ever found. It went up for auction, and the buzz was immediate. Veteran collectors, high-end dealers, and serious investors all saw it as an opportunity to own a true rarity. Bidding skyrocketed. The price climbed higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an unbelievable $71,000. What makes this story even crazier is that this penny, at one point, was probably just sitting in someone's drawer. Forgotten, lost in a jar, maybe passed down in a family collection, maybe tossed into a coin roll and stored away for decades. That's the mystery and magic of coins like this. They can be anywhere. And here's the truth, there may be more like it out there. There might be another 1951 penny sitting in someone's attic right now, untouched, waiting to be discovered. Most 1951 wheat pennies are worth just a few cents. In decent condition, maybe a couple dollars. But the rarest ones, the flawless ones, the uncirculated high-grade survivors, they can be worth hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. So what should you look for? A clean, brilliant surface. Strong, sharp details, especially in Lincoln's beard, hair, and jacket. Full rims. No signs of wear. No scratches. No corrosion. Look for that rich, original copper color, red or red-brown. And of course, the date, 1951. If you find a 1951 penny that looks too perfect to be real, don't ignore it. Get it looked at. You might be holding something truly rare. Coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. It's about history, preservation, patience, and luck. And sometimes, it's about discovering that the most ordinary-looking things can turn out to be the most extraordinary. The 1951 wheat penny, one of the most common coins of its time. But in one shining, perfect example, it became one of the most valuable. 1 cent $71,000. Check your coins. The next viral discovery could be sitting right in your pocket. Top 4. The 1954 wheat penny. A coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, dropped into vending machines, and tossed into jars without a second thought. A simple, copper coin with Lincoln's face on the front and 2 wheat stalks on the back. To most, it's just a relic of the past. But one 1954 wheat penny made headlines across the collecting world when it sold for an incredible $67,000. That's right, 1 cent, 70 years old. That became one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in U.S. history. 1954 was a year of growth and change in America. The post-war economy was booming, suburbs were expanding, televisions were becoming household staples, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins by the hundreds of millions. Over 71 million wheat pennies were minted in Philadelphia alone, with tens of millions more coming out of the Denver and San Francisco mints. These pennies were never meant to be rare. They were made to be spent, circulated, and forgotten. But hidden in all those millions, there was one. One coin struck so perfectly, preserved so flawlessly, that it would go on to defy all expectations. That penny never saw the inside of a pocket. It was never dropped, scratched, or rubbed against other coins. It never bought a soda or paid for a newspaper. Somehow, for over 7 decades, it remained untouched. Bright red copper luster, sharp strike, full detail from Lincoln's jawline to the wheat grains on the reverse. It was a coin frozen in time, like it had just come off the press. Collectors believe it may have been an early die strike, possibly one of the very first coins struck from fresh dies at the beginning of the 1954 minting cycle. Coins like this often show the strongest details and sharpest edges, making them stand out even more in pristine condition. Combine that with the fact that it was likely immediately pulled from circulation and preserved in a protected environment, and you have a once-in-a-generation find. When the coin was submitted for professional grading, it came back with an elite certification, one of the highest known grades for a 1954 wheat penny. MS-68 red, possibly higher. In the world of coins, that kind of grade puts a penny in the top fraction of a percent. It's not just rare, it's elite. When word got out that this coin would be going up for auction, collectors and dealers from all over the country took notice. The bidding started strong and escalated fast. Everyone wanted a shot at owning one of the greatest 1954 pennies ever found. The excitement was electric, the offers relentless. And when the final gavel dropped, the price stunned the numismatic world. $67,000 for a single penny. What makes this story even more incredible is how easily this coin could have been lost to time. If it had been spent just once, scratched, bent, or forgotten in a box in someone's basement, it never would have reached that level of value. But instead, it survived. Perfect, protected, and waiting to be discovered. Now here's the part that should grab your attention. Coins like this still exist. Maybe not every day, maybe not often, but they're out there. In old collections, hidden in forgotten coin rolls, tucked away in cigar boxes, or passed down through generations. You don't need to be a millionaire or a professional dealer to find one. All it takes is a careful eye and a little bit of luck. If you have a 1954 wheat penny, take a good look. Is the color still rich and red? Are the details sharp? Can you see all the lines in Lincoln's coat, the fine features in his hair, the full wheat stalks on the reverse? Are the rims complete and raised? Is the coin free from nicks, dents, and wear? If so, you might be holding something far more valuable than pocket change. Most 1954 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents, maybe $1 or $2 in decent condition. But the best of the best, the top 1%, the flawless survivors, those are the coins that change lives. That's the magic of collecting. History preserved in copper, value hidden in plain sight. The 1954 wheat penny is a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones everyone else overlooks. A penny, ignored by millions, that became a treasure in the hands of one lucky collector. 1 cent, $67,000. Check your change. Look through your old jars, because history could be sitting right in the palm of your hand. Top 5. The 1956 wheat penny, a coin millions of people handled without a second thought. Just 1 cent, made of copper, carrying the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front and 2 wheat stalks on the back. For most, it was just spare change. But hidden in that massive sea of ordinary coins, one extraordinary piece made headlines when it sold for a staggering $63,000. 1 penny, $63,000. A moment that shook the coin collecting world and turned a simple everyday object into a rare and priceless treasure. In 1956, America was booming. Rock and roll was taking over radios, families were moving to the suburbs, and the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Over 420 million wheat pennies came out of the Philadelphia Mint that year alone. That's nearly 500 million coins, all nearly identical in design, all intended for circulation, all meant to be spent. But in the chaos of high-speed production, perfection is rare. And in the world of coin collecting, perfection is everything. The 1956 penny that would go on to sell for $63,000 wasn't just rare, it was nearly flawless. It was the kind of coin that, somehow, against all odds, survived decades in absolute mint condition. Bright, blazing red copper tone, razor-sharp strike, full detail in Lincoln's face, coat, and hair. Every line of text crisp and defined. The wheat stalks on the reverse showed every fine grain. No wear, no scratches, no signs of ever being touched by human hands. This wasn't just a nice coin. This was a top-grade gem, a true mint-state marvel, believed to be one of the finest examples of the 1956 wheat penny ever found. It was likely pulled from circulation immediately after minting, maybe by a collector, maybe by a mint worker, maybe by someone who just liked the way it looked. Whatever the reason, it was preserved perfectly for over half a century. When it was finally graded by professionals, it received an MS-68 red designation or higher, one of the highest grades ever awarded to a 1956 penny. Only a tiny handful in the entire world exist in such pristine condition, and this one was at the top of the list. For serious collectors, that's like finding the holy grail of mid-century copper coins. When it went to auction, it didn't take long for the bidding war to ignite. Word spread quickly. Collectors knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone wanted it. The price climbed higher and higher. 5,000, 10,000, 20, 30, until finally, after a fierce round of final bids, the hammer dropped $63,000 for a single wheat penny. And here's the best part. It could have been lost forever. That coin could have been spent on a soda in the 60s, dropped on the sidewalk, or thrown into a fountain. But instead, it was saved, protected, and eventually, it turned into one of the most valuable pennies in U.S. history. Now ask yourself, how many 1956 wheat pennies are still out there? How many are sitting in old coin jars, in attics, in boxes passed down through families? Most of them are worth face value, just 1 cent. A few in decent condition might fetch a couple bucks. But the true gems, the untouched, uncirculated, high-grade survivors, those are the ones that can change your life. If you come across a 1956 penny, don't ignore it. Look closely. Is the color still rich, bright red? Are the details sharp? Does Lincoln's jacket show full lines? Are the rims clean and raised? Is it free of scratches, dings, fingerprints, or wear? If so, you might be holding something special. Coin collecting isn't about luck. It's about knowledge, patience, and keeping your eyes open. Because sometimes, the most valuable things are hiding in plain sight. The 1956 wheat penny, forged in copper, forgotten by millions, and rediscovered as one of the most valuable coins ever to come out of the U.S. Mint. 1 cent, $63,000. Check your pockets. Check your jars. Because you never know when history and fortune might be hiding in your hand.